Y estamos en este formato de charlar un poco con las personas que han viajado a Buenos Aires a contar un poco de su trabajo, de lo que los motiva, de lo que los mantiene despiertos de la noche. No tenemos nada más y nada menos que a dos speakers que han venido de muy lejos, a Kate y a Kat. Vamos a darle la bienvenida. Bienvenidas a Eco Party. Gracias por venir. Y la primera pregunta que tengo es, ¿por qué Argentina?
Me encanta. Yo quería empezar por decirte a vos, feliz cumple.
Gracias.
21, otra vez, ¿no? Bueno, no, es un honor completo estar acá. Desde, no sé, como 10 meses, estábamos hablando por posiblemente entregar una solicitud para presentarnos en Eco Party, entonces es un placer. ¿Por qué Argentina? Porque básicamente le obligué a Kat que eligiera un país latinoamericano. Yo hablaba español, yo vivía en Buenos Aires hace unos años y la reputación, la fama de Eco Party habla por sí mismo, ¿no? Y entonces queríamos como viajar acá y para aumentar la conciencia, como concientizar nuestro trabajo con más gente, con una parte del mundo que creo que, en mi opinión, no recibe mucha atención de la industria como en general, ¿no?
Totalmente. Hay a veces, yo le digo un bias, ¿no? Cuando
Sí.
uno ve adversarios, cuando ve incidentes, los pone en un mapa. Hay un Survivor cuando hace un gráfico, ¿no? Todo ataca a Estados Unidos, pero no hay otros ataques alrededor del mundo. ¿Cuál creen que es el desafío de regiones como la Argentina para empezar a tener el mismo nivel de análisis o de investigación en los incidentes y los tipos de atacantes que existen en nuestras regiones?
Es una buena pregunta. Hay dos partes de eso, porque creo que una parte en Argentina específica, pero también por la parte de la industria en general. Con respecto a la Argentina, creo que el país, como lo he visto acá en Eco Party, tiene muchos profesionales que tienen un conocimiento técnico bastante alto, ¿no? Creo que la educación acá es gratis, ¿no? Y entonces ya tenés una población muy bien como técnica. Pero creo que para mí parece posiblemente que hay una falta de acceso a recursos necesarios, ¿no? En ciberseguridad. Por ejemplo, trabajamos en la matriz de Mitre, es como Mitre Attack, y solo está disponible en inglés, no está disponible ni en español ni otros idiomas, y estamos trabajando juntos a cambiar ese hecho, pero creo que sirve como una barrera. Si no habla inglés, si no tiene acceso a esos recursos que están en inglés, posiblemente hay una barrera. Por parte de la industria en general, creo que la industria y esos como empresas más grandes que están produciendo reportes de la inteligencia, ¿no? De que lo que estamos observando en el mundo cibernético, creo que nos enfocamos en 4 países: Rusia, China, Corea del Norte y Irán. Y no podemos, en mi opinión, no podemos seguirnos como ignorando a ciertas partes del mundo, incluso América Latina, porque hay un ambiente bastante avanzado de ciberseguridad acá, ¿no? Tienen actores acá, grupos cibercriminales que están haciendo cosas muy interesantes, y es el propósito de poder estar acá dándonos nuestra charla para, no sé, cómo empezar la conversación.
Totalmente. Creo, no sé, Kat, cómo venís entendiendo nuestro español.
No hablo español.
Muy poquito. Así que voy a switchar un poquito al inglés, así hablamos. I'm going to switch a little bit in English, so we can speak with you as well, Kat. So Kate mentioned, free education or the access to education in a free matter. In Argentina, we have great universities that are public. And before we go live, you were mentioning that you love that the con is free and kids can come as well. How do you think conferences and communities can build this sort of infrastructure, this support for cybersecurity, for thinking how to build systems, and how maybe in your experience Mitre is also helping these organizations around the planet moving forward? Easy question.
Yeah, I was about to say that feels like the define world peace.
A little bit. No, but maybe I'm going to make it more simpler. Do you think by opening up information, it's easier to implement for outside parties that don't require to pay a lot to understand things?
100%. I would say my best stab at your question, the first one, is the thing I really appreciate about Echo Party is you all make it free, yes, but the culture is very accessible. When I started off in this field, I remember seeing a guy at a table, like, you know, with one of the little Wi-Fi extenders. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. What did you do? Like, I want to do this too. And he was like, yeah, no. Like, no, I have no idea how to tell you. I just figured it out. And like now we have Echo Party. Like, fast forward 15 years, we have Echo Party, and there was this moment I was sitting in the audience, and when I realized who was sitting in front of me, it was a woman and her 2 children. And one of the kids was playing a video game right on their iPhone, but the other one was paying attention. And I just remember thinking like, wow, this is no longer a blocker. This is no longer something that's a barrier that we have to get over to get into this. The familiarity, the exposure, like you're already doing it. That bringing people in at a young age, making it fun, allowing kids to feel like they belong here is huge. And having these games, I love these games. I used to sneak over to my neighbors' houses because we were super poor, so none of us had any like cool games. So we were like, who's the rich kid in the neighborhood? We're gonna go over to their house and play those games. So it's like Tekken and all those fun things. So it's really cool to see this here because it's a really cool space just for all the ages. So I think that addresses the culture, and the culture is what really addresses bringing it into organizations because you can't pay for that.
I think cybersecurity, infosec, hacking had a lot of toxic culture in a way of gatekeeping, and I think our generation grew up on that gatekeeping, and we realized ain't working for me, ain't working for most people. And I think making a party easier, funnier. It's actually my birthday, but what I try to do, and when I try to pitch to new people working at the con, is like, this is your birthday, so we try everyone to have a great time. If you're not adding value, if you're not, having fun, if you're doing the opposite, there's the door. It's like there is no space for that. And cybersecurity requires collaboration. Cybersecurity requires transparency. So at least Echo Party tries to add that thing that for us was quite far in Buenos Aires, in Latin America.
I would say I think with that culture that you're talking about, one facet that I don't think is really called out often is this assumption that you should know it all.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've noticed at Echo Party is that there's this grace where it's like, I don't have to know how to do everything. Like, Kate's a CTI analyst, getting more and more and more technical. Like, that should not be expected of her. It should be celebrated that someone is like going deeper into an area, right? And she also speaks Spanish and chose to do a presentation in a language that's not her native tongue.
Talking about that, I'm going to switch back to Spanish
Claro.
because I want Kate to introduce Mitre and tell a little bit of Mitre things that we use every day that maybe people who are watching us don't know. La pregunta que le hice a Kate, y lo vamos a volver en español, es: ellas trabajan para Mitre, que es una organización, y le pedí que nos cuente de a veces los productos o la información que consumimos de Mitre, y yo voy a decir la primera. Nosotros en la compañía, que tenemos un software open source, usamos todos los CVEs del Mitre Catalog. Y bueno.
Me encanta, sí. Bueno, primero, Mitre es una organización sin fines de lucro y eso nos da un nivel de flexibilidad, porque todo lo que hacemos en términos de todo lo que investigamos, todo lo que desarrollamos, todo lo que estudiamos es para el público, ¿no? Y entonces un buen ejemplo de eso es la matriz ATT&CK de que yo estaba hablando. La matriz ATT&CK sirve como, bueno, básicamente es un conjunto de datos sobre ataques específicos según lo que hemos observado en el mundo real, en el mundo cibernético, ¿no? Y entonces sirve como una manera de hablar el mismo idioma para que diferentes equipos, o sea, son equipos azules, equipos rojos, cazadores de amenaza, para que todos esos diferentes equipos se puedan comunicar sobre la misma cosa, sobre el mismo ataque. Y entonces, uno de nuestros proyectos. El otro proyecto de que, nos damos una charla ayer acá en EKO Party sobre Attack Evaluations. Y lo que es, básicamente es informado por la matriz ATT&CK y lo que hacemos es mi trabajo favorito, en serio. No lo puedo creer que ellos no nos paguen por hacer eso, pero realizamos ataques como básicamente ejecutamos planes de emulación de adversarios contra productos de ciberseguridad, ¿no? Y entonces esas empresas, su CrowdStrike, su Mandiant, todas esas empresas nos pagan por como probar sus defensas.
Benchmarking, ¿no?
Sí.
Hay ahora una cultura de no es promise-based security, es evidence-based security, ¿no? Y cómo un attack framework nos puede ayudar a comparar las detecciones de una de esas verticales de diferentes de TTPs.
Sí, no, bien dicho, que la cosa es que nuestro propósito de hacer todo eso es poner los puntos débiles dentro de esos productos para que ellos mejoren sus productos para cada usuario final, ¿no? Porque nuestro propósito de hacer todo eso es para el usuario final, no para las empresas. Es para que los clientes que estén pagando o utilizando esos programas y productos puedan recibir un producto y una solución bastante alta, ¿no?
Y ahora voy a pasar de vuelta al inglés. I'm going back and forth because I want to talk with you both, and I want you to also. You have a perfect Spanish, by the way.
Right?
You have a perfect Spanish. So, I have seen a lot of progress with not only NGOs but also with state organizations such as CISA, right? Who are providing information about, which exploits threat actors are using, which CVEs are being trending, and they are providing threat feeds as an open market. I'm a true believer in open source information tooling, and I don't think security should be a privilege for the ones can afford it. From Mitre, what other incentives are you providing so companies, organizations, NGOs can help and adopt many of these frameworks that you are providing?
I don't know if I can say incentives. I think everyone that I know in the CISA team, because the nice thing about MITRE, right, is that we're all these like little pockets of people that just care a lot. And we're all working for a nonprofit.
We're all nerds.
We're all nerds. And there's like this weird unspoken rule of do more with less. And so most of us are just like, what solution are you working that you found has worked? And everyone on CISA really cares. So I think they're just constantly trying to figure out like, what does the industry need? What can we give them? So we're very more focused on like, what is being adopted because it's working for someone versus what incentive do I need to give them to use it? Does that make sense? It's a very backwards mindset in the way that we go about things a lot of times. So for anyone that's listening that can speak English or understand English, let those teams know if it's working for them, because that's what's going to actually result in doing more of that work, because they don't know unless you tell them. And that's why MITRE ATT&CK became so popular, is people started using it. They started citing it. And that actually resulted in us investing more in that MITRE.
I think a thing that I found quite interesting about ATT&CK, at least in this personally, and there's another one that I really like, which is CAPEC, which is the pattern of attacks, which is you don't have to reinvent the wheel to explain what happened.
Totally.
It is this, how they moved, how they'd accessed, there are so many ways that people sometimes in attack or instant response, they try to tell the story, but sometimes making it easier, consumable, it's a way of understanding that green is green, yellow is yellow, and we can decide those two colors and not the whole rainbow. Do you think this sort of normalization of data or nomenclature, it's going to help companies and countries to speak the same language, even if it's not the same language that we're talking right now?
I can say it in English and then maybe summarize in Spanish, but I think that short answer, yes. Especially when the community is encouraged to contribute, right? Like something that I think people miss the point about in terms of like, we'll take the MITRE ATT&CK framework, for example. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that's MITRE's thing. Like they organize it and they give it to us. No, it's actually our name, but it's completely as a result of everyone sharing information and sending us their own research, sending us, you know, what they've kind of tracked on certain adversaries. It would not be possible without the community. And that's just one example. So I think that as long as we continue to have a culture, and I've seen this at EKO Party better than other conferences, I will say, where there is a complete free exchange of information and ideas. People are not afraid to be proven wrong. And I think like when you're proven wrong, you're closer to being right. And I think that's the mentality that we as an industry need to have and keep in mind.
That's awesome. Kat, gracias por venir a EKO Party, gracias por compartir su sabiduría y su experiencia con el público latinoamericano. Las esperamos el año que viene, espero. Y nada, muchas gracias también por apoyar con su tiempo organizaciones sin fines de lucro que saben que no solo tiene un efecto local, sino también global. Así que desde ya, muchas gracias.
No, a vos, muchas gracias. Estamos agradecidas.